question for you this morning. What are you all doing with your free time this summer? Chilling. Biking.
Free time?
Free time?
Napping.
Napping. What fills your days with, my tablet goes fluey sometimes. What fills your lazy, hazy days of summer? Do you have lazy, daisy days? Or are you rushing off on a vacation that carries all those stressors of make sure you have everything packed and all the plans nailed down, and that you go and rush from thing to thing to thing because you don't want to miss anything while you're away? Are you racing through a project at home, hoping that you're going to get it done before you've got to go back to work? Are you suffering from hurry sickness? When Jesus dropped in to visit Martha and Mary, Martha's first reaction was to drop what she was doing, hurry up, and get things started in the kitchen. As a Palestinian Jew, she was eager to make sure that Jesus felt welcome in her home. And she was known, of course, for her hospitality and her desire to serve and take care of her guests. She did a really good job at it. Not her sister, though. Mary wasn't having anything to do with those traditional jobs. No, she instead was content to sit at the feet of her friend and rabbi, choosing instead to soak in everything he had to say. Mary, my favorite character in the Bible. Mary, whose name God just bestowed on me a long time ago, but that's a whole story for another day. Any typical woman of that day would have known that her place was not in joining the men. And as you can imagine, Martha was pretty upset. Her expectation was that Mary would join her in the kitchen, help out for a change, not plop down on the rug at Jesus' feet, leaving her to do all the work. As the story unfolds, we see Martha getting more and more preoccupied with all the preparations and the tasks. She gets stressed and burdened with all the responsibilities to the point of feeling overwhelmed. Meanwhile, Mary keeps on sitting at Jesus' feet, undistracted by the banging of the pots and pans and the slamming of the plates on the table. She's fully attentive to Jesus' words. Finally, Martha's had enough. She's frustrated. She's resentful that Mary isn't helping out, and so she goes over to Jesus and asks him to intervene. Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about so many things, but only one thing is really necessary. Mary has chosen what is good. In today's culture of hectic schedules and the relentless pursuit of productivity and accomplishment, how many of us, like Martha, are tempted to measure our worth by all the things that we accomplish, by how busy we are? John Ortberg, in his book, The Life You've Always Wanted, says, "Hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. Hurry can destroy our souls. Hurry can keep us from living well. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry," a wise friend advised Ortberg. I agree. Life can be really frazzled when, like Martha, we know that there are deadlines we have to meet, jobs that have to be done, people we don't want to let down, and so it's easy to feel guilty for taking time off for ourselves. The kind of quality time that will energize us to meet all those demands of what we do. How many of you know that guilty feeling? Yeah. We need to create a better balance between work and play. It's easy to take on so much, to say yes all the time. We find it really hard to say no. But we need to take time off to refill our well. We live in a world which is one of the most prosperous periods in all of history, yet people aren't any happier. Ours is the most educated, most literate, and most informed generations of all times. Sheila Hamill, leader of the Christian folk band The United Folk, says, "We know what's right and what's wrong, what's temporary and what's permanent, what's worldly and what's spiritual, what is fleeting and what is eternal." We should be able to distinguish between what's urgent and what's important, but we still hurtle on with tremendous speed. Someone once said the concept of creative pause, sanctified by the divine example, is one of the greatest spiritual and social contributions that civilizations made by the religion in Israel. The Sabbath was intended by God to be the highlight of our week. To Jews, the 6 days leading up to the Sabbath were days of preparation for that one glorious day of rest. It was once a time, I'm sure many of you remember, that Sunday was our day to discover, to appreciate, and to treasure time for God and family and ourselves. Businesses were closed. Sunday was a quiet day. Even large cities seemed like ghost towns. I don't know about you, but I miss those days. Ortberg went on to say, "For many of us, the great danger isn't that we will renounce our faith. It's that we will become so distracted and rushed and preoccupied that we'll settle for a mediocre version of our faith. We'll just skim over our lives instead of actually living them." And you know what? Following Jesus can't be done as a sprint. Ouch. I'm guilty of hurry sickness and the fallout that surrounds my poor choices of always saying yes and running and being on the go. And Ortberg, in his book, goes on to offer suggestions of what we can do. I just want to spend time with God and see what God says to me first. May it be so with all of you. Amen.